Mythposter syndrome.
Hello and welcome back to my series Bridging the Gap, where we make functional play guides for new players seeking to get into the endgame and perform well in group content. This week we'll be discussing the backline mage class, Scholar. Scholar is a very versatile job that has a lot of playstyle options. Because of this, we'll only be discussing Scholar as a healer during this video, and we'll explore other options at a later time. Scholar as a healer plays a bit differently than a white mage. Instead of relying on powerful AoE cure spells, Scholar specializes in using buffs to mitigate damage and to heal party members consistently over time. Because Scholar specializes in supplementing its cure spells with regen and other enhancing magic, Scholar's gear requirements are a bit more demanding when compared to a white mage. To be a functional endgame healer, the Scholar is expected to have a cure set, a fast cast set, an idle set, and a functional regen set that balances duration and potency. Other sets that will be crucial to a Scholar are enhancing duration, enfeebling magic, and many more sets. I'll link a guide below that covers good gear sets. As always, keep in mind that best in slot isn't always something to aim for, but rather a good way to find ideas how to make functional sets that fit your objectives and your playstyle. Now let's dig into Scholar's mini job abilities. Scholar has two stances, referred to in-game as grimoires. For this video, we'll only be focusing on light arts. When light arts is up, it boosts magic that is light-based, such as healing magic, enhancing magic, and so on. It reduces the casting time of those spells by 10% and reduces their MP cost. It also increases the potency of regen spells, which we'll talk about later in the video. Keep in mind that while light arts is active, you're also penalized when it comes to dark magic. Spells such as elemental magic have an increased cast time and increased MP cost. Under light arts, Scholar gains access to additional job abilities that we'll discuss now. Light arts is almost always paired with Addendum White. Addendum White is an ability that gives Scholar access to spells that it doesn't have access to otherwise. It allows Scholars to use status removal spells as well as raise and re-raise spells. It's important to have access to these whether through Addendum White or through a Subjob as the main healer of your group. Accession is an ability that makes the next light magic spell you cast area of effect. This works for most spells, but not all of them. I'll link the BG Wiki page below for the exact spell list. Perpetuance is an ability that doubles the duration of the next white enhancing magic spell you cast. It is often used paired with Accession to provide powerful and long-lasting buffs to your party. The effect of Perpetuance can be increased by the Empyrean Hands. Penury is an ability that halves the MP cost of your next spell. While this shouldn't be necessary if you have good MP management, it can be helpful when casting things like Imbrava, which costs 20% of your total MP, and then is doubled when Accession is used. Penury can help mitigate costs that could leave you MP drained at a bad time. Celerity grants minus 40% cast time and spell recast time, in addition to the 10% that is given by light arts. When paired with the relic feat, it can raise the recast reduction rate to a cap of 90%. This is mostly helpful if you or party members die. It can help overcome pesky weakened recast timers to get your group back in action that much quicker. All of the job abilities mentioned to this point are gained by accessing light arts, and they all consume stratagems. We'll discuss how to manage stratagems a little bit later in the video. For now, we have one last job ability to discuss, Sublimation. Upon use, you will have a status icon that states Sublimation is active. The effect changes to complete when the total MP stored is equal to 50% of your maximum HP, or if your HP falls below 50%. This ability can be stored for up to 2 hours, making it nice to keep in your back pocket. Sublimation is also something that makes Scholars highly desirable in content where status ailments, such as sleep, are prevalent. A good Scholar can time their sublimation use to make sure they have some HP being drained, so they're woken up in case they're slept. Now we'll move on to spells. Regen is arguably Scholar's most important spell, especially when acting as a group's healer. Regen gains a boost under light arts, and when paired with gear like the Nusa, it can heal over 100 HP per tick. Regen is best used prior to combat, Pair it with Accession and Perpetuance for a long-lasting and powerful HP gain over time, and it will drastically decrease how much you need to single target heal your party. If you're doing a timed instance like Odyssey She'll See, make sure you don't forget to reapply it throughout the content. A unique buff to Scholars is the Storm type spells. Storms can be used to give a party member a weather effect that overwrites the weather that the environment has active. Weather effects can increase the potency of magic-based spells or weapon skills that align with it, and it can decrease those that are opposed to it. If you cast Aurora Storm on yourself in instances with dark weather, you'll have much stronger cures. Another example where this is important as a backline healer is if you have party members using elemental or hybrid weapon skills like Tachi Kagero. This weapon skill inflicts fire damage. A firestorm could increase damage potential. We'll discuss how storms interact with black magic more when we get to part 2 and see how Scholar interacts with magic damage setups. Choosing a subjob on Scholar is incredibly important. Scholar does not natively have access to a lot of utility spells that White Mage or Red Mage may have. We'll do a quick pros and cons list to compare the two. Red Mage subjob grants Scholars access to damage mitigation spells like Phalanx. You will also have the ability to refresh party members if you need to, and you'll gain access to a slew of niche but useful spells that can be helpful. Spells like Gravity, Bind, and End spells can all come in handy at different times. Red Mage subjob also provides you with Convert. This ability can be useful for MP management, but hopefully with proper sublimation management you won't need to use it. The biggest drawback of Red Mage subjob is that you don't have any native area of effect cure spells. You can manage it with single target cures just fine, and in a pinch you can use Accession to make your single target cures area of effect, but native Curaga spells are faster and oftentimes more efficient. Aside from area of effect cure spells, Sub-White Mage also has benefits. You can save stratagems by not having to use Accession when applying bar spells to party members, and you won't have to use Addendum White for status removal spells like Stona. This could potentially come into play if you need to switch between light and dark arts quickly and you're short on stratagems. Regardless of what subjob you choose to play, Scholar has a few spells worth using to maintain efficiency. Aqua Veil is an important spell to keep on yourself whenever possible. It keeps you from being interrupted while casting for a certain amount of hits, which is based off of your gear and enhancing magic skill. Scholar can also be a powerful enfeebler if there is no Red Mage in the group. Spells like Dia, Paralyze, and Slow can help speed up the kills when fighting bosses, and they can help mitigate damage. The last spell we'll discuss for now is Embrava. Embrava is a spell only available while under the effects of Scholar's SP ability, Tabula Rasa. Embrava is an incredibly unique spell that grants a powerful regen, refresh, haste, and flurry that cannot be dispelled. Because Tabula Rasa lasts 3 minutes, it is best to cast Embrava immediately when you use the ability. Pair it with Accession, Perpetuance, and Penury, and make sure you cast it again right before Tabula wears off to get the maximum duration possible. If you're looking for quick tips for how to target party members for spells, here are a few. Sub-Target Alliance is my most recommended option. This will target the party list and allow you to scroll through the list to your target. I prefer using this over the tab or function keys to target because if a party member performs a gear swap that causes them to blink, I will still be able to target that party member. If you prefer the function keys, I would recommend using the sub-target macro. This will place a sub-target cursor over targetable players. There are plenty of other options as well. If you're curious, I'll link the BG Wiki page with a complete list of macro commands down below. Now we'll move on to putting things into practice. The first step for any scholar preparing to do battle is knowing what buffs are needed and how much time you have to apply those buffs. A scholar with 550 job points has 5 stratagems. Each one has a 33-second cooldown. If you don't plan on how to use those, it's easy to leave your party underprepared for the upcoming fight. While preparing for a battle, you need to identify what spells you need and you don't need. Typically, Light Arts and Addendum White will consume your first stratagem for re-raise, and to allow access to your full kit of support spells. Once that's complete, you need to take into account what spells need Accession or Perpetuance tied to them. If there's a Paladin in your group, you can save a stratagem that you typically use for Protect, and instead simply apply Accession to Shell 5. that's complete, regen paired with Accession and Perpetuance should always be used. If you've noticed, we've just blown through 4 of our 5 stratagems simply on baseline buffs. Our 5th would also be used if there is not a Paladin available, because we'd be applying Protect. Now is the time to start prioritizing what spells are most important to the party. If you're not haste capped by other means, applying haste, then overriding it with Perpetuance enhanced haste as stratagems become available is a good way to make sure your party members are working optimally. If that's not an issue, or if you have more stratagems available, Phalanx paired with Accession is an excellent use of stratagems to mitigate damage. If you're able to communicate with your party, they can even switch to a Phalanx received set prior to your cast for extra damage mitigation and a few cool guy points. Once the fight is underway, try to make sure you have at least 1 or 2 stratagems available in case of emergencies. When fighting certain monsters where status ailments are heavy, it might be good to stack up a few in case you need to spam Accession to remove a few different status ailments. Remember to use your stratagems as they come available too. Sitting on 5 unused stratagems can be a significant waste. Even applying small things like Aqua Veil to your jobs that are sub-ninja so shadows don't get interrupted, or longer lasting storm spells to increase damage will add up over time, improving your party's overall performance. Now let's go over a start to finish fight as a scholar that's focused on healing. Begin the fight by using the necessary stratagems to enhance buffs. Accession, Protect, and Shell. Accession combined with Perpetuance for regen, and Addendum White are typically the baseline. Once that's done, apply short-term buffs like Haste or Storms if needed. On the pull, enfeeble with Dia, Slow, and Paralyze whenever possible. Keep an eye out on the ongoing fight. Use single-target cure spells to spot heal when regen can't keep up with the incoming damage. And when it's safe, continue buffing your party with stratagem-enhanced spells as they become available. Remember, 1 or 2 stratagems in your back pocket for emergency area of effect cures or status removals is always helpful. And don't forget to stock up on remedies or echo drops before going out into the field. There's nothing worse than being a mage that can't cast because they're silenced. That's all for this week. If you have any questions or just want to chat, feel free to jump into our community Discord, linked below. I'll see you next time.